That's such a good tune.
Hey-o.
Happy
I love
KOTG Tuesday.
Song gets me
Oh,
pumped.
yes.
I could just listen to that all day.
I know, like what point do you cut it
elevator.
off?
Like elevator music just in the
Going.
background going all day. You know,
It's
just,
like it's like when you're getting out of your car heading
What
to
did it
work,
cost to have AC/DC do that for you guys?
Yeah, right. We just mow their lawn for them. That's all.
There you go.
Nate, is that like your walkout music when you get out of the truck and you're
Yeah,
walking into
yeah.
work in the morning?
Heading
Oh,
into
I'd
the
love
plant.
That in
Let's
the
go.
AirPods.
Got the AirPods
Drunk
in? Yeah,
music.
man.
we did when we were going to Equip Expo.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that when
Last
we
year I
cranked,
wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
cranked it
Windows
up and-
down.
yeah, we rolled all the windows down, cranked it up in my truck.
Yeah,
and
baby.
rolled in there.
Nice.
That was pretty
Oh,
sweet.
Yeah, dude.
That's funny.
Had to rock it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey guys, I got snow today. How about you guys?
Oh, Brian. I was
Yeah,
gonna
coming
say,
tonight.
That was crazy.
It was 78 yesterday, and it is like, and it's like, I think it's going to wake up to the teens tomorrow, and maybe some snow on the ground.
Mm.
But then this weekend is supposed to be back in the 70s again. So
Wow.
classic
That's
classic
something right
Midwestern
there.
week. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were driving home late last night. We just, just started blowing in. The wind was crazy, blowing cars all around on the road, and
Yeah.
then wake up to snow.
Yeah, that's super windy here. I think it was like I think they said 30 or 40 degree temperature drop in like 2 hours. Something like it was crazy. Yeah.
Josh was saying that.
That'd be wild to be
Josh,
outside and kind of feel that
Josh
if you're...
Lothblad just said that as well.
Yeah. Yep. He's about an hour from me.
Yeah, it was pretty warm here today. 60s, rainy. Not too shabby.
Ooh, getting some rain, huh? Okay.
Yeah, a little,
I could use
little
some of
rain rolling in.
Nice.
Funny.
All right.
Well, we can jump into the show tonight. Episode 149. And let's grab a glass and keep off the grass.
Cheers.
Cheers. Nate, me and Nate are on the no drinking
Water bottle.
Somebody.
Water.
I think Ole's on a water bottle
Ole's
too.
got water.
I had
everyone's-
What the heck, Ole?
I had enough alcohol when I was in Savannah
Just drying out a little bit. Huh?
Yeah.
and eat enough for about 4 people.
All right, well, we got an amazing company on tonight. Nate, you want to go ahead and introduce?
Yeah. So with us tonight is the company Irrigreen, and we have Shane with us from Irrigreen. So
Hey guys.
welcome to the
Yes,
show.
it is
Hey,
Irrigreen,
welcome.
right? Not like Irrigreen. I mean, how do you? We just learned how to pronounce Temu.
It's the
Super
Irish
Bowl.
pronunciation, but it's Irrigreen, yeah.
Irrigreen. All right.
I
Gotcha.
was
Irrigation
worried I
and
wasn't
green.
saying it right. Hold on a minute.
You did it good.
Yeah. That was gonna be one of my first questions. Is there a significance to the name, or is there anything was it the
Irrigation?
dartboard approach, or what was
And
it?
we like it green.
All right.
So
Irrigation
I think it was
green.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your position,
Sure.
your and which about the company a little bit.
So I'm Shane. I'm the I run the joint, or at least sometimes it runs me. My partner Gary is our CTO. He helped found the company with me, and he is a kind of crazy guy. He's like has like 35 patents in inkjet printing.
Wow.
So, and it turns out that if you're an inkjet printer inventor, he's invented if you ever had like your ID printed or something like that for this places, there's a good chance it was on a machine that Gary invented. But if you're an inkjet printer inventor and then you walk past like sprinkler head spraying and water on top of itself and
It just
running
doesn't
down
sit
the
right with you.
sidewalk and down the piece, it drives you batshit crazy enough that you go start a company.
Nice.
So we have Gary to thank for that.
Nice.
Um,
So where was
Yeah,
so that obviously that's how the brainchild was born was
Yep.
you got someone who's got a technology background and sees this
Yeah.
idea, obviously a deficiency in sprinkler systems in general. I guess talk a little bit about what your product is and why it's unique, or why is it different from any other sprinkler head out there?
Sure. So, I mean, essentially what it is, if you take one of the heads apart, it's kind of like a printer for water. So the same way that you can put droplets of, if you want to print a picture, you got to put the ink liquid in very, very precise places in order to make sure that you got a picture, you're printing a document. A lot of the same technology is used in Irrigreen, where we're putting the water streams and the water droplets in really precise places. So instead of having, regular mechanical sprinkler heads that are kind of, springs and gizmos and rotors that all are, go all the way around the perimeter of your yard or your lawn, you just have one of these sort of digital sprinkler heads that sits in the center. And then what it does is it basically traces just perfectly the outline of your landscaping. And when it does that, it's putting this completely even layer of water across that area, just like it was printing a picture. And that gives you kind of two huge things. One is if you're trying to grow the best grass in the world, you've got so much more control over your watering because you don't have, wet spots and dry spots and things like this as well. And it turns out Center for Irrigation Technology did a thing on it, and it saves about 50% of the water for the same grass growth because you don't have all the overlapping sections. You can just water everything evenly, and you don't have to water to that, so that one spot that always gets dry stays green. So, the other part is if you're DIY inclined, or even if you're a contractor, there's about 80% less pipe. And, a typical house that would have like 40 mechanical heads will have like 5 Irrigreen digital heads. So it's just a lot simpler of a product to put in that piece. And we think that, really it's just trying our very, very best to kind of reimagine what irrigation can be and how we can use a lot of things like, apps and things like that as well to give you so much more control over how you make your grass green and do it in a way where you use less water.
Gotcha. What year did the company start?
So Gary had this going, in his basement for about 5 years before we got the first product in line there. And then we've had it out now for about 5 years. So it's almost coming up on 10 years now. I mean, these technologies take a long time to kind of develop and get out there. But then I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago that we released Irrigreen 2, which was kind of like, how you never heard about the Apple One?
Yeah.
That was the one that was like Steve Jobs had like in the wood case. It was like,
right. It was on a piece of plywood.
Had termites and stuff like that as well, a little board underneath. But the Apple II kind of took off. So Irrigreen 2 was kind of the one that as soon as that one launched, it was kind of a rocket ship. And just like the pickup on that was like tremendous. So we're holding on for dear life. And, the company's growing like crazy as we, get these things out, continue to, do the, do better and better on the technology and the pieces like that as well. But it's been really fun to kind of be on this ride, even when it's crazy.
So do you have Irrigreen 1 installed at your house?
I do have an original one. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, right on.
Nice.
Fortunately, they I got the upgrade.
Oh yeah, they upgraded you.
Switch it over. I got a good deal on it too.
So I want to know,
guy.
the kind of similarities to like printing on a piece of paper or whatever. You could almost think like, that's kind of like 3D printing where you have this thing running across the grass, dropping droplets or whatever. But in this case, it's a single point. You're still rotating from one source, so that the innovation obviously is being able to change the distance that the water sprays and follow a I guess digitally guided path. What was the biggest challenge of trying to get the water to go where you need it to go and not fluctuate?
Yeah, this is the hardest part of this thing. I mean, it's a huge printing problem, and there's now 8 patents that Irrigreen has in this area, but figuring out how to have it throw 4 feet or 5 feet and then throw 30 feet and still put down exactly the same uniform part of water. So if you watch an Irrigreen head, it's just amazing, but you'll actually see it slow down and speed up depending on how far it's throwing. And it's doing all the math. There's software in that head to basically figure out how exactly to put down to basically make sure that that's, you know, if you ask it for like, you know, 0.25 inches of water, it's going to put down 0.25 inches of water, no more, no less, completely consistently across that yard, and not spray on the sidewalk and not spray on the driveway. So it's funny, like people put them in and then like they have, you know, they go out there and it's like watering, you know, in the morning, or it's watering in the afternoon, and all of a sudden you'll see one person come by and another person come by as the neighbors kind of check this thing out that they've never seen before. So it's pretty fun for that.
Are they Bluetooth from the controller to the actual head, or is there wires ran?
No, in the same line that you have like the water
Main
line
line?
going, there's just a plug and play. Just it's main line out to the head, just like a golf head. So it's like a valve and head design. And then there's a wire that goes out, and you know, you don't have to like do any of the wiring. It's all plug and play. This waterproof, you know, underwater rated kind of water cable. You put it in the same line for that, and then that plugs back into the controller, and it talks down that same thing. I mean, if you did wireless, it just wouldn't be reliable enough with that wired connection. You got power, you got communication to that thing, and it's just rock solid.
Okay.
And you know, it's not one wire to each head. You can daisy chain them. So kind of think about it like a 2-wire system, where you can, except you can do a T and go to your front yard and your backyard or anything else like that. So it's super flexible and really easy to install. Like that was one thing that just lit us up, is, you know, in terms of like people that want to put their own system in. You know, there wasn't really great irrigation technology for somebody that wanted to put their own system in. I'm sure some of you guys have probably done it, but like figuring out how to get the head coverage and pick out what heads you need, and doing the piping to have constant pressure. And then it's just a lot of digging. And I don't know about you guys, I've dug a lot, and it's not my favorite thing to do in the world, especially when there's like some tree roots and some rocks.
Some 100-degree days.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Kind of stuff. Oof.
And like you can get a trencher, but whatever reason it is, like when I go rent a trencher, I always get like Widowmaker the trencher, you know, that's like leaking oil out the side, and you know, it's going to last for like 10 minutes as soon as I get it home. And I looked at it once and I know this thing's not going to last the whole day. But this is like, you know, 80% less digging, less trench, you know, to design it. If you got a tape measure, you can design a world-class sprinkler system, because you're basically just making sure, you know, is it line of sight to, you know, 30, 35 feet around the area, figure out how many zones you have, drop in one per zone, and you're done. So
that part,
you know,
was
a couple guys put in this thing, you know, contractor crews that do a couple guys will put, you know, like a 5-zone system in less than a day.
Bill, how long did it take you?
a little longer than that.
Yeah. Tell us.
It was your first one, Bill.
It was my first time, guys.
What's your second one gonna go?
Oh man, no, it was great. I mean, of course, a lot of work, learning experience, weather comes into play, but you know, honestly, getting irrigation was something that was like a goal of mine. One day I want to have it, and this was just when I heard about the system and learned about it. It was just, you know, so different and really cool. And, you know, getting on here with you guys and trying to be as DIY as I can, I thought, heck, this is, you know, it is a lot less digging, and you know, depending on how much time you could dedicate, how things go, you could get it done real quick. And I've seen some other guys that have gotten done much faster than me too. So, you know, I would do it again in a heartbeat. My wife probably wouldn't let me, but you know, I mean, if I can convince her to let us throw some in the backyard, I don't know, you know, who knows? Summer's always away. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do anymore. No, I'm very excited to get it up and running again, and you know, open that valve and get it going this year and seeing how it does, man. I'm really excited to go. Yeah, bring on summer. Let's bring on the heat. Let's see what I can do with this
Awesome.
new system, man. I'm excited.
So
usually
Bill,
when you have like
I mean,
YouTube guys on their yawn, most of the effort is like the plastic surgery of getting that grass completely cut and rolled up and then stitched back in. So it's
those guys know what they're doing a little more than me. I'm winging it over here.
the golf course guys.
Yeah.
So Bill, I know that we had talked about it, like we've talked about it offline, right? But you know, for the benefit of the show, like what all came in the package, like what, and I mean, Shane, you know, obviously you can answer this too, but if you order a system through you guys, what all comes, and what else do you know, would somebody need to purchase to do the install? I mean, how do you have it packaged, and what all components are in there, and what else is necessary?
I mean, so basically it's the sprinkler heads with the cable to kind of run them along, and like Shane was saying, you can just daisy chain however you have the shape of it. You could tee off, and they'll give you a connector for that. I didn't need it because I just went under the driveway eventually, and it was just one straight line coming from the side of the house. So you get the heads of whatever you've calculated with their, mapping software. You can go on their website and map it out, figure out how many heads you need and where they're going to go. And as long as you are there, I think it's like 50 feet cords or 50 feet little each run is. So, which there was extra left over for me because, the heads go about 30 with my pressure, and I wanted to make sure there was significant overlap that I could change the shapes, do what I want. And then, control box essentially that you are going to put up in your garage or wherever you get that set up. It can go inside or outside, just depends on what you want to do. But then the rest is you get to kind of, do you want to use PVC or PEX tubing, or, you can decide how you want to run it. Are you going to install a whole new water meter or not? It's up to you on what else you want to do with putting it in. But it's basically, that's that setup. And then, it's up, go get them,
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We sell 3 SKUs, which is basically the head, right? And the shape it makes is all, you just program it on your phone. So that's one product, and then the controller, and then the cable that connects them.
I mean, there's
not really
no control boxes.
Not much to it.
Yeah, there is you could get some kind of a pressure gauge or some kind of a pressure monitor thing in addition to the standard system.
Yeah, there's the new heads. They're pretty cool. They're the XP heads, and what they have is they have a pressure sensor and a flow sensor in every head. And so what that's really good for is if you have the water pressure changes in your line, but you really want that head to be really accurate so it doesn't go on your sidewalk or anything else like that. That head actually uses that pressure gauge, and actually uses a little bit of machine learning to forward predict the pressure. It's pretty wild. But what that means is it sits there and goes, okay, I know the pressure is going to come up a little bit, so I'm going to adjust the valve so that thing stays exactly at 30 feet. So you can see this little, when we're in the lab, we'll take the pressure, and we'll take the pressure down to 40 PSI and up to 80 PSI. And while we're doing that, that head is completely tracing an accurate line around, even though the pressure's changing.
Oh, that's pretty fascinating.
So it's a really great product to have if your pressure's changing. But even if you don't, it just gives you, if you want kind of the best in accuracy, I think it's another $90 a head or something else like that. But that XP is there. Yeah.
And what are y'all's recommendations on water pressure PSI for one of your systems?
We usually say 40 to 80 PSI. So if you're up above 80, you'll probably want to knock it down a little bit, put a little PRD on it or something like that. So that's kind of the range that we look for, which is pretty much the range for
and I think the connectors that you guys send are for 1-inch PVC, not the 3/4 inch, right? So you may want to make sure you do the 1-inch.
Yeah. So we generally recommend 1-inch just so you don't lose a lot of pressure in the line. And since it's 80% less pipe, you're using 20% of the pipe as a current job. You just pay a couple extra bucks and get the 1-inch, and then you'll never have to worry about losing PSI on those runs.
Mm-hmm.
What do most people use PVC, or do you see a fluctuation of?
Totally split. Depends on what area of the country you're in. A lot of poly too.
It seems like it's a very hotly debated topic in irrigation world, because I'll have passionate, because I was okay, what should I do? I mean, that flexible stuff sounds really cool, because that way if I'm digging a trench and I turn off to the side, veer off, I don't have to worry about fixing that or whatever. And other people, it's gonna tear apart, or it's so much weaker, it doesn't last nearly as long, and then PVC is brittle, blah blah blah. I don't know. I think it's just whatever you want to do, and maybe it matters where you live too. If you get super cold, or if you don't, I don't know. But I went with PVC.
It also matters how you're actually putting a trench in. If you're trenching, they'll probably drop PVC in. If you're got a vibratory plow,
pulling it,
they'll pull in the poly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good call. That way you don't have to chop up.
And
as
usually,
much as
if you're using a plow, you'll kind of drop in 2 poly lines, and then you can run the cable down the second one.
Yeah, yeah. I ran 2 pipes under the driveway, one for the water and one for the cable. And then the rest is just kind of in the ground next to the PVC.
Yeah. The one thing I like about the poly is, those guys always have the barbecue that they bring up along so that they can have the boiling water there. And you can put like a brat or a hamburger on that too. So if you need a snack while you're doing the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. PVC glue is not a condiment.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Don't want to eat that stuff.
it sets up quick too.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that debate, I actually went through and did the PVC on my system, but my neighbor across the street went and did the poly. We'll just say he's got a few more holes and issues popping up around than I do. So it seemed like the poly was like you're saying, the debate of brittle or, did you bend it too much? Did you kink it when you laid it down? I don't know, all that kind of stuff. And the way the connectors are on, I don't know how the Irrigreen connectors are, but regular sprinkler systems, putting those connectors on were pretty tough too.
Yeah, that was my next question. How do your and I see Ferd the Dirt asked, how hard are they to change if one gets broken? And I was going to piggyback on that question and say, how are they connected? Is it kind of like an industry standard connection that you would see in a normal sprinkler system and a golf course sprinkler system?
It's pretty close. It's a standard, like it's a 3/4. It's basically like a little 3/4 inch on the flex pipe. So if you have to replace one, the cables are all plug and play. So you can just unplug that head and then unscrew it off that flex pipe, and then screw a new one on that flex pipe and plug it back in. So that's the way that's the way you like change a head if you need to change a head for it.
3/4 MPT.
I believe so, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long day, so check the Irrigreen service at Irrigreen.com/service, and you'll find all the all the pieces there. And there's videos to show you how to do it and stuff like that too.
I was looking today at Big League Lawns because I got their stripe kit, and I seen your product on there today on their website.
Right.
Yeah, they're an awesome partner to pick up for that. But we're excited to have them there. It's been like I mentioned, it's been a crazy ride. Like, this stuff is picking up hard. I think part of the reason is if you got a pretty big lawn, like if you got like 7 zones or more, when people get quotes on it, the labor to put it in, it's a little more expensive equipment wise than like if you're buying like $10 rainbird heads or anything else like that. But there's savings. You don't have as much trenching for labor and less pipe to put in there. You don't have any valves. Like, all the valves and the valve wiring in a traditional system all goes away because it's just that one cable, and all the smarts are in these digital heads. So for that system, when you bid it out with the labor, it costs about the same amount to put in an Irrigreen system as a regular system. And if you're in Texas or in Colorado somewhere where the water's expensive, you'd be saving about somewhere between like $500 and $1,200 per year off your water bill. So you're kind of financially insane to put in like a regular system if you've got the ability to put in something that saves a little more water.
I think it's impressive how you can control like that right there, where you can go around objects. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's pretty fun.
And
that's a good barbecue. That's a good barbecue moment too, when you turn it on for your friends and
they stand right here. You won't get wet. Yeah, right.
Or it's also one of the best like super soaker alternatives. So when you're sister's down in the yard canning, and
if you're playing with it, you can shoot. It'll fly across real quick if you move it on the app when you're tinkering with it. I mean, it goes slow and normal when it's doing its thing, but if you're out there doing stuff, hey Jack, you get your kid, it's pretty fun.
So is it typically set up to, let's say you're going to set it at, you want to do a 1/2 inch. Is it set up to just make one pass and then done, or can you design it either way?
Yeah, so every pass is 0.05 inches.
Okay.
That's how the system's been set up to go on that. So, you can figure out. So if you set it to do like, if you wanted to do like 1/10 of an inch, that would be basically 2 rotations. and then it'll shut down. It's also set up, very similar to like a, Ratio system or something like that, to weather-based watering. So it'll like do those, if you tell it things like when you install the system, it'll ask you some questions about, what kind of grass you're putting it in, what kind of soil do you have, how much shade sun does that zone have, and then it'll do some calculations to put that in. But it also gives you a lot of control in terms of, if you think that side of your house is a little mushy, you can turn it down a little bit, or if you think it's a little dry, you can turn the water up. So it gives you a lot of control that way too, if you want to follow weather-based watering.
So is it possible if it's all on like one circuit, I guess you would say, is it possible to like say, hey, head 3, it's on the north side of my house, I only want to do like 0.25 inches, whereas, head 6 is in the front, it just gets sun blasted all day, I definitely want to put it down a half inch. You're able to do that?
You can just dial that, right? So
Nice.
you can, if you want to set it manually, you can do that. If you want to be on auto water, you can basically sit there and say the north side, I want auto water, but I only want to do 50% of what auto water would normally put down. And on my sunny side, I want to do 125%.
Yeah.
So it's your choice. You can control it completely manually, or you can do auto water and then tune it exactly for your house. And I kind of recommend the auto water because once you've got that like tuned in, it's just going to run, like a rail on that side. And then as weather fluctuates, it'll do all the adjustments in terms of, what it needs to put down for you, and the rain skips and the other pieces.
Yeah, so it has all that feature where you can rain skip, wind skip, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or
wind skip we don't have yet. We'll probably pull that one
Okay.
in like sometime this summer, this fall, but rain skip and those goes through.
'Cause that was the
On
biggest
wind,
factor.
though, on wind, though, if you look at that video again, you can actually see the water, and they're all, we call them like semi-coherent streams.
Mm-hmm.
This
So
one?
compared to like a regular, up at the top, right there.
This one.
So
Okay.
if you look at those streams coming through, they're like,
Mhm.
they're
Pretty heavy.
semi-coherent. So they actually do much, much better in wind than an average system will. And the idea there is you don't really want the water to be too atomized, because if it sits on the blade of grass, the grass can't drink from the leaves. You guys all know this, right? It's got to be in the
Mhm.
roots. So that water just evaporates, and it's like you wasted it. So you want a little bit of, kind of mimicking like a good, nice
Droplet.
hard rain. Yeah, so that it penetrates, gets off the blade, and gets into the soil.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to those fat water droplets. I think it's definitely a double-edged sword, because I had the bare spots where I did my overseeding to kind of repair the trenches and stuff. And as you get close to the head, that spray is pretty intense, and it will kind of move some of your seed unless you really kind of maybe put like a netting or something down to kind of keep it in
Put a little
place, 'cause
straw on it or something.
And I didn't do that. I was like, you know what, let's do it, see how it goes. Some areas were perfectly fine. Other areas, I'm gonna do some spot repair here next weekend. But I mean, it wasn't as bad as I was fearing. And then as you get further out, it's perfect. I mean, it's just gentle plops, like a nice gentle rain. So yeah, I mean, it'll move around if there's enough wind, but I think compared to like those misting heads, definitely it's getting down in there the way you want it. And then if you have an established lawn, it's perfect. Yeah.
And Bill, we're probably playing around with some of the grass seeding stuff. So ping us, because we want to try an R&D head out on you.
Ooh, that'd be
We're
sweet.
thinking about productizing. That's a little bit. It basically has more jets in it, more pieces on that, so it'll land a little gentler for if you got an area that you've seeded or something like that.
That's cool. So you can swap out just the little top parts. Is that what you're talking about, or is it the whole,
whole
unit?
No, just the top part.
Oh, okay.
Which is
that's
important because,
interesting.
everyone's like, do I have to replace my head if I hit it with a lawnmower? Well, usually you hit the top part with the lawnmower, and then you just unscrew the little, $5 top part and put another.
I got that
one
question a lot
from
people, and I was like, oh, I mean, yes, the heads aren't cheap, but what if you run it over? So I don't know. I mean, maybe you could, because you have to be able to open that up to clean it or something if something gets in there anyway too. So so that's good to know. Like, you don't have to replace the whole thing potentially.
Yeah, and there's a little screen in there, so if you screw up and you get some sediment in your pipe or something, you can clean it out.
Awesome. That seems like just like a normal head in that case, because and they got to be durable, right? I mean, they're in the ground all day, so yeah. That's cool. One of the
We
things I
got
was
some people
curious.
that park. We have like church parking lots where people park on.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I don't feel okay. I'll be less. I won't be so worried.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. That's the stuff.
There's
It
the
really is plug and
cables.
play, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
Do you know
150
why it's plug and play?
cable, 60.
To make it easy.
No, well, we went through like failure
Yeah.
analysis on the first one where we went through and said, okay, let's go through every single system that's out there and why it failed. Because originally it was just like buy your own wire and connect it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And like people being able to get like a waterproof, strain relief connection, even with like DBYs or something else like that, like just the craftsmanship's kind of all over the place. And so like just having it be waterproof plug and play, like all of a sudden the failure rate dropped because it was just like, okay, the cables are bulletproof, the connections are bulletproof. Like
You mean like you guys are taking ownership of like, here, we'll provide you the right kind of wiring you need so that your system doesn't mess up, and then you get mad at us when it's like, okay, you chose crappy wire. That's smart. That's like
just
Apple
get it
using
done.
lightning cables.
Get
or
it
something
done
like
and get it done
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So how many
keep it
wires
easy.
are in that cable?
Two.
And then you can daisy chain multiple heads.
It was like how many heads in one zone? Like
So
is
you
it
can put
10 or
eight. You
8?
can put eight off one, and then the controller you can put another run off there and do another 8. So if you got like a front yard or a backyard or something like that as well.
Okay. So it must have some type of code it sends instead of having a
Yeah.
common with multiple wires. So
There's some crazy stuff in there, man. Like it's
Mhm.
got the ability to like power, but it also has the ability to communicate over that same power line. And there's some safety features in there. Like it has enough power and capacitors, so if you cut that line, like this freaks people out. But you can like actually take the line. If you cut, don't do this. But if you cut the line, you'll actually see the head like shut down and close the valve. And you're like, how did it do that? Like your power line was cut. But just little safety features to make sure that if it fails, it turns itself off. Yeah.
See, I was looking at the controller and it had the antenna on it. That's why at first I thought it was Bluetooth or something like that. But I guess that is for your Wi-Fi.
Well, we actually do have Bluetooth in the head. It doesn't mean the only thing it's really used for is like if you have a phone close and you put these things out, you can tell what head you're really close to. And you can sit there if you want to have a name or a number for it, sit there and say, oh, I'm in the backyard by the mailbox or something like that. So that's what that's used for. But when it communicates with the controller, it all communicates through that wired line because that's much more, just, it's there. It's always reliable.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So it's like a Cat 5, Cat 6 kind of cable, right? Like Josh just said. Josh just said that too. He said like a PoE cable.
Yeah, like power over Ethernet. That's right.
So as far as your controller, is 16 zones, is that the max on one controller?
No, we sell a commercial one that's like 32. And, each zone does like, 2,000 square feet or so. So 32 on 2,000 square feet, you pretty much cover a pretty big mansion on that.
How many square feet?
Although I don't know, some of you guys have big yards. So
I was going to ask you, what's like the biggest system that you've ever sold or been involved with?
We've sold some like multi-controllers where they've got multiple controllers with 32 heads, but these are like, compounds at this point. Most of the customers are residential, so most people are buying this for, I think on average we sell like 6 heads per system. That's about the average.
Now, do you guys have a list of like, trusted, trained installers? I mean, I know you said that, you built it, kind of with the DIY community in mind of saying like, well, we want to make it ease of install, but for somebody that, I mean, most everybody that watches the show and all of us, we're all like DIY people, right? For the most part. But, for anybody that's looking into this and, maybe looks you up on YouTube or something like that, that doesn't want to install it or feels like that is too overwhelming for them, do you have a list of trusted installers or things like that?
A lot of times if there's somebody in the area that's done them, we can always connect somebody to a contractor that's put some in before. But our favorite thing to do is it's so easy to like train someone how to put one of these in that we usually sit there and just say, hey, look, grab the installer, your landscape contractor that you like to work with anyway, or one that's recommended to you, and then we'll for free, give them a little training. It takes about an hour to tell them how to put it all in, and then just be there with them. Like, we've got a really good support line to be with them for that first install. Mm-hmm. And that does two things. One is the person that you want to work with installed it for you, which is great. And then for us, it's awesome because usually that contractor's like, what? Like, this thing really installed, and now I've got a differentiated product. So they'll go out and sell a bunch more. So, we spend a little extra time with them, but a lot of times we get a contractor that's kind of hot to do a bunch more of them, which is really good for business, and also kind of lights that contractor out because they get a chance to try it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you guys recommend a backflow preventer at all?
Yeah. So anywhere that goes through there, if they're putting in if it's a new system or something else like that, I would recommend they put a backflow in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think reaching out, if say you're not up to the whole DIY aspect of it, I would imagine that you could find somebody that would be, help put it in your area, because I wouldn't let that be a barrier. If doing a DIY is not for you, it's just no different than any other system. There's just less to do, really. So I wouldn't see, unless that contractor is trying to make a buck off of overpricing you with the system itself. It should be an easy job for him. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We also have a lot of people doing hybrid where they'll be like, hey, I want to put it in myself. I want to do this part, but I want to dig the ditch, or I don't want to put the PVC in. So they'll just put the little flags where they want the heads, and they'll just be like, hey, give me some 1-inch PVC here with, the little 1/2-inch thing that the flex pipe plugs in on. You don't have to know what kind of system this is. Just do that part. I'll put the heads in, and then once I get it up and running, I'll just backfill it myself. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
And so I get to do the fun part of the job, which is, driving around with my app and having it follow my contours and everything else like that, and setting up my schedule. And then he got to do the digging in the 100-degree weather part that I didn't really want to sign up for.
Yeah. That was, that's what saved me on having the plumber come out, because here in Missouri, you had to have licensed plumber tap into the line. You could do the backflow yourself. You just have to get it tested annually, and I'll have the guys come out whenever they come out to do it, in the springtime. But beyond that, you could do it all yourself. But when I had the guy come out first, he's used to digging it and finding it himself, and then cutting it and then backfilling it. So his first quote was like, I don't even know what it was, but it was like over $1,000. And I'm like, is he just saying this because he doesn't really want to do it, or does he not get what I'm saying? I'm digging the hole. I will find it for you. And you finally got it. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing some of the work yourself, it's a little bit different. But it is a lot of work getting down in there and finding that line for sure.
Yeah.
Did you watch him tap the main?
No, he did it when I was at work, and he didn't do it the way he said he was going to do it. I thought he was going to put in the stand thing and everything like they normally have, but no, he just put this other thing in it, and I was like, oh crap! And I got to go take that back and buy this crap. It was irritating. I was disappointed, but it's done now, and I'm glad it is.
Most of the folks that have put it in, they'll either find a hose spigot and just tap at the bottom of that. Mm-hmm. Or they'll find a traditional irrigation valve, and they'll just tap on that, the main line set part of that valve, or it's right where it comes from the house, right where that backflow is, or something else like that.
Well, see, the good thing is he actually got a separate tap to where he doesn't have to pay sewage. So
yes,
he's paying just water.
Yeah, that's part of it that made the project a lot bigger, but in the end, I mean, already I've cut my water bill by more than 50% because sewage where I live is more than the water itself. Mm-hmm. And I'm not paying for that now. So I think there's a $9 a month base fee for just having the meter that I'm paying right now. But once I turn it back on, I'm like, I can use twice as much water and wife won't even know. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I love it. I'm going to be so green this year. The city's going to be calling me like they do Olee, because we're not a big city, but who is this guy?
I'm done with the city.
Yeah.
Hey,
Bill, there's a question. Bill, there's a question down there. Did you use the website system to design it? To design your system?
I did. Yeah. I mean, that's how I decided. That's how we came up with how many heads I would need. And you could kind of I have a tree in the middle of my yard, so you have to take that into account and try to figure out how can you get it best to get all around the tree or whatever. And yeah, so that's where we figured out, and then I just had this general idea of where it was going to go, and then I get out there with some stakes and some string, go out 30 feet, cut it, and go around paint these circles and make sure I got it in the right spot, and we're digging. I mean, yeah, that was about it. You get the rough idea on the website, which is very helpful. I mean, it's really cool to kind of see where you want them. Initially I thought we were going to use a couple, but then, you could definitely, there's different ways to do it. So the website's really fun to just kind of look around and get a sense of what you want. And then
if you just go to the front of the website, and just put your address in, it'll like pull up this little Google satellite view of your house. And then you literally it has instructions on it. We just hit this and it just basically tells you to draw a boundary around the stuff that you want to water. So like, what's grass and things like that as well. Ooh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm not going to enter my address in because I don't want everybody to see it.
Here, I've got one you can put in there. Put in a one vintage quart.
One vintage quart.
Yeah, Woodside, California. Is that first one there?
Woodside, California.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun one. And then just double click and it'll kind of pull in there a little bit.
Double click this. Okay,
Yeah, there
like
you go.
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then hit that get started button on the bottom there.
Is that vineyards all around? Grapevines?
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Wow.
And you just kind of draw it like this.
Yeah, just draw a little shape down there and you can
Oh,
draw
look
the
at that.
whole thing. Yeah. And then just keep on going all the way back up to your other dot there and click on that, and that'll kind of put a little bounding box on it. There you go.
I mean, it feels very
And then go to
similar
the next step. Click on next step down below. And then we don't have a tree in our middle, so you just hit no.
Okay.
And then click on that sprinkler head, and it'll give you a sprinkler head. Click on that one. Oh,
Like
the bottom
this?
part.
Look.
Yep. And just drag that somewhere, and it'll kind of show you
Oh, okay.
where the water.
You
So you
can
can kind of
move
play
it
around with, you can put one down in the corner there or something like
right
that.
there. Look
Oh, yeah, I like it.
at
And
that.
then go click it again, you get another head.
Oh, yeah.
Drag that one up,
there you
and
go.
then
But see,
Get those Venn diagrams going.
yeah,
Kind of figure out how it all fits in there.
and then grab another head.
Nice.
It's like this one. You probably want 4 heads for it.
Yeah. Just to get the right coverage.
Yep. And then click you're done at the bottom there. And it basically tells you, so that system with 4 heads, it costs about $3,000. And the other cool thing is this goes back for 3 years of like daily weather data. And for like cool weather grass, this would save about, because this is in a pretty dry area, this would save about 100,000 gallons per watering season by putting an Irrigreen versus having like, rotors or spray heads or something similar.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So if you look up your water bill, you can figure out how much money that would be.
That's pretty awesome. Like that's a really neat, that's a really cool tool.
Yeah, that is.
To be able to help people plan it out.
It's so weird with little companies. Like you don't know what you're going to have to invent to make it work. Like if you told me like we were going to be making, layout tools using Google Maps, what? I thought we were making printing. I thought we were going to making printing heads, but
So I guess
you got to
I was
know how many
curious.
of them you need.
We didn't get too much into it, but how did you guys, so you said that, years ago, your partner had this idea and he was tinkering with it. And so how did you guys find each other and start Irrigreen? How did that kind of come to be?
Yeah. Well, my background was I'm an electrical engineer and I worked on computers as well. So any of you guys have like those garage doors that you can like open with your phone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the LiftMaster or MyQ.
Yeah.
So there's about 2 million of those out. So my previous company, like we worked with like Chamberlain to like internet connect all their garage doors and do that. And we worked with, like Pentair on a lot of pumps, like internet connecting those pumps, and Levy Latham on like Osram of Sylvania on like connected lighting. So we'd done about 60 different products that all sort of connected to the internet in a way. And so that was the part that I could kind of bring in. And, Gary had the printer part and I knew how to connect it to the weather systems and get the networking part working.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we divided up that world.
That's pretty cool.
And Yeah, just you always need somebody to sort of complement each other, and in putting things together. But
So one
but yeah,
question
so-
that came through was somebody had planned out their yard and it was 50 feet long by 5 foot wide. And then another guy's asking, like, what's the solution for those long, thin areas like park strips or
yeah.
what do you guys call them? Devil strips or something?
Yeah.
The funny part about like 50 feet long and 5 feet wide, how many spray heads do you need to put onto that if you want head-to-head
Mhm.
coverage?
Oh, just
Shoot,
Yeah.
I'd go one on each end.
Yeah, you're talking 35.
Oh, okay.
They go 30 feet or something, right?
Well, I mean, if you want spray heads or something else like that,
Oh,
when you
yeah,
want
yeah.
head-to-head coverage, right? You
I've
need
seen
them
somebody
about
like
every,
12
every
of them.
6 feet.
Yeah.
You probably need like 18 of them for that.
Mhm.
How many Irrigreen heads do you need for that same
I
same
think you can
piece?
do it in two.
One.
Go 25, 25.
Yep, you put it right in the center on the edge so it can water. You can put Irrigreen on the edge and just have it water 180 if you need to, if you got a really thin strip like that. But that one head will basically water that entire strip.
They just kind of
Yeah.
For me, I have that. You got the yard, you got the sidewalk, and then you have the devil strip, and then the road. Right now, the heads don't have ability to like spray with a gap in between that line. I can't keep the sidewalk dry as it cuts across to make sure I'm watering the devil strip. I brought that up to Nina at the Equip Expo. I was like, you guys, on version 3.0, we need to get it where you can go like, pew, pew, pew. You can hit that
Or like
bush over there, hit that bush over there, get that devil strip.
Drop it.
Or like the middle stream,
Yeah,
cuts
just
out.
cut that out real quick. Like turn those off and just so you can
Stay
walk the dog
tuned,
while I'm
Bill.
watering.
Stay tuned, Bill. Stay tuned.
Man, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like you guys have. I mean, obviously, none of this stuff's. This is a really cool, this unique idea. But I don't know the potential flexibility with the system that you just wouldn't have with a traditional system of where you can go. Like I'm thinking, where I put them, I can hit my rose bushes that would be out front too if I want to go over the sidewalk and hit those too. I have that ability to change it up if I want. The one that's towards the back of my house, I could hit my little tree there if I wanted to. So I don't know. It has that. Depending where you put it, you can make sure it hits your flower beds and stuff too if you want.
So can you
I have one
program?
contractor. Oh, go ahead.
Can you program two, just like he's talking about? Like say,
Two shapes.
I don't want to touch the flower beds this week, but next week I want to hit the flower beds. So can you have two programs? And
That's coming, Olee, but
3.0.
not quite yet. You'll probably see that. Well, actually, this is the really cool part about Irrigreen is that we can change the software in the controller just through the internet anytime we want. But also, this took like 2 years of engineering work, but we can also change the software in every single one of those heads. So a lot of the features that they don't have yet, we just bring down and download to them. So if you look at the things the heads can do now, when people installed it, there are a lot of special things they do now that they couldn't do
That's
when
pretty
they
cool.
initially put in. So it's kind of like, like a Tesla or something else like that, where it just gets better and better because the software gets upgraded.
That's pretty neat.
Interesting.
so free.
So
up
like, for
heads.
instance, you mentioned like that mapping thing, can I do 2 maps on it or something like that? The golf guys really like that. Like they want to I want to do this part. And then I got that
Let's
hot
get the green
spot over
twice
there.
and the rest of it once. Yeah.
That's right, all that
Mhm.
stuff. The other thing I've seen people do is we got contractors that put one in the middle to do the turf, and then they've got the whole the bushes that are around the outside that generally are done with drip, but they don't want to do the drip because it's just maintenance and drip's a pain. So they'll basically just, as it waters the lawn, they'll have it kind of chunk out little sections to go hit the bushes, but they need less water than the turf. So they'll just make the rectangle smaller.
Thinner.
Okay.
Thinner.
Yeah.
So it puts down less water there, and then it'll come back and water the edge, and then it'll come back out and hit
Hit
something.
the next bush. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Which I looked at that and I was like, man, I don't know if I would have thought of that.
Yeah, that's playing with the shapes and stuff. That's pretty smart. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's kind of cool.
That's
Do
pretty
you guys
good.
do a lot of commercial? You were talking about you get a lot of homeowners with 6 heads on average, but I would imagine if you're putting in, your dental office or something, you're like, hey, let's, this system could save money. Let's just do it. Do you do a lot of looking into the commercial side of this stuff as well?
Yeah, we have a lot of, especially like property management companies that are just like,
Apartment complexes. And
they compare it to like solar. It's like,
Mm.
a lot of these things, if they put in a new one, like the payback period, if you're in a place that has it, our water's not cheap, like 3 to 5 years, which is like twice the payback period of solar. So we're starting to see more of that, especially if you're in Colorado or you're in places in Texas where the water's expensive.
Yeah, and if you guys can obviously, talk up the water savings aspect of it too in places that don't get much rain, where it is, that's a definite selling point for them too.
Yeah. Boy, maybe you guys can tell me something about Utah too. It's just like going crazy in Utah.
Yeah, it is
I
going
like
crazy
the grass
in Utah.
there, huh?
That's where I live. I live in Utah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and Drunk Lawn Guy here are neighbors. So
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's crazy because we like grass, but it's a high desert, so it doesn't grow unless you do a sprinkler system. So, yeah, if you see grass, it's because there's a in-ground sprinkler system usually there. And it gets so cold, you got to dig at least, almost 2 feet down, 20 inches or so, 20, 24 inches down to keep the pipes and stuff from freezing over the winter time. But I think it's because it's deserty. We love a little bit of greenery,
Yeah.
and making that grass as green as you can. But yeah, there's a lot of Utah guys out here that are on the social webs. Definitely, yeah.
Hey, Furt in the Dirt had a good question that I didn't really think about. How do the heads do in places with hard water? Like we have pretty hard water and a lot of buildup and whatnot. How do they do with that?
Yeah, so far that hasn't been a problem, but part of that is like the material that the nozzles are made out of is a really special plastic. And the idea, what took a long time to do is basically make it as inert as possible, so there's no like bonding point or deposit point for that. So they may get a little stained, but we really haven't seen like hard water cause problems in the system. Now, what we have seen cause problems is if you're like pumping a hose out of a lake, right, and driving grit through that thing,
sediment and whatnot.
That's no bueno. So you got to, just like a drip system, you have to have like filtering in place. So that if you're pulling from a lake or you're pulling from a dirty well or something else like that, take that grit out, because that won't be your friend.
How's your well, Olee?
How is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know as far as grit or any of that. I don't know. I've been running it. I run it yesterday. I think it was yesterday. But that is a thing that I'm gonna have to check. Like I need to see. I'm sure it's got some grit or settlement because it's only a couple months old too. But that's something I'm gonna have to look into, is possibly
Filter.
some type of huge filter. But I don't want much of a filter because I don't want
pressure.
I don't want back pressure or something. But one fellow there, is asked, how long does it take to put down a 1/2 inch of water with one head?
It all depends on the size of the zone, but for like a typical size zone, if you wanted to put it at 1/2 inch, that'd be like half a week's water like that. So that would be like 10 revolutions or so for that. So you're probably looking at like 40 minutes.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area.
That ain't bad.
And I understand that's hard.
So like the maximum, just to give you an idea, like if it's throwing like 30 feet, that's like 8 gallons per minute.
Mm-hmm. And that would have to do with how much, honestly, with the shape you're covering.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're covering something narrow, you're gonna get that quicker than if you're shooting a full 35.
Yeah, if you had a little small space, you actually see the head going faster, and as soon as it throws the long space, you'll see it slow down. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is 30 feet the maximum? I know, or is that the recommended kind of?
It's kind of recommended. We want you to have some engineering margin. It'll actually throw like 35 feet, but it's dependent on pressure. So there's a little pressure gauge on that. So once you get your flow rate, and you can just do like a bucket test, just get like a 5-gallon bucket and see where you want. You kind of want like 8 gallons per minute, so on that piece. But you can kind of look at the table and see how far it'll throw. If you have really good pressure and you wanted to go to, 32 feet or something else like that because it saved you a head, you can look at that table and cheat on it. But
Now, if you
Yeah, just
had,
kind of want give one a little engineering margin because they're kind of a pain to dig up if you missed it by a foot.
Yeah, you just
That's good.
miss it by that much. You have to dig the whole thing up.
if you had plenty of water
Or
pressure,
buy a pump.
yeah,
Only don't use my tape measure, huh?
that boy can't read a tape.
I can. My wife can't.
Hey.
I'll be quiet.
Uh,
So if you had enough gallons per minute and enough flow, enough pressure, could you run 2 at a time with that controller, or is it more of like just 1 at a time?
Yeah, you can. You can run 2 at a time. So if you got like a restriction or something else like that. Now, if you do run 2 at a time, you just got to make sure you design the system up front for doing that. So understanding where they're
Awesome.
flowing from. I would really recommend the XP heads at that point because you're going to be changing the water pressure in that pipe. So you want those pressure sensors to kind of compensate for it so you keep the pattern straight.
Yeah, true.
And then you just got to make sure you got enough flow for it too.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Nice.
But typically, if it's a residential, we don't see that many residential installs, even if they have like 16 zones. Like most people will just run it sequentially.
Olee, I think it'd be fun to go to the website and pull up your address and just see how many zones, see how many heads it would take. Just for shits and giggles, I want to do that.
Yeah, put it in your story tomorrow. Just so you know.
Man, if you,
Put in your story. I went to the Irrigreen website and I need to have 75 heads.
Yeah, just map it out, screenshot what it looks like, and just see all those damn heads over there. So,
if you
Olee's
zoomed in to see the house, his yard would take up the whole screen.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to put enough circles on there.
well, the little circle, as you zoomed out far enough, the little circles are just gonna be
Yeah.
like little tiny ones.
Yeah.
Olee, if you switch to Irrigreen, would you sell the center pivot to like a farmer or something else like that? Or would you just give it?
I don't know. It's pretty fun. But yeah, it'd be time to get. I'm tired of dragging hoses, so yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't done anything in months because we've been getting some rain and it's been winter. But the other night I had some trees and stuff to water, and I drug out about 400 feet of hose, and I thought, God dang it, I remember what this is all about. And dragging hose across the yard and quads just burning, and I was like, man, it's time to get it in shape too because it'll whoop you.
Oh man.
But
Yeah. Awesome.
cool deal. That's the reason I was
Yeah,
asking.
someone there says they got 120
Go ahead.
psi, so they should be able to throw 40 feet. Put a PRV on that cannon.
Yeah.
knock it down to 80 or 70.
Roll the heads off.
Man, if he's got 120 psi, his doggone ice maker's probably leaking on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, so it's 120 that goes into our irrigation system, not 120 into the house. The houses, we do have the regulator on the houses, but
Y'all have 120 psi. That's insane.
coming
Yeah,
right
that's
off the street,
That's
the
wild.
city water.
God bless.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I did have to put regulator heads on all of mine to keep it at 40 psi, so I didn't blow anything. And yeah,
Shoot, I thought 70 was good. Good God.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, pretty wild.
drunk lawn guy worked for the city at the time, so I think he upped us a little bit more than usual. It's kind of like if you know the cable guy, he kind of
Yeah.
hooks you up with a little free cable. I think he hooked
Extra
us up
PSI
with a
for
little
you.
Good. I got a
extra
question.
PSI.
I got a question for drunk lawn guy then. Is the pressure that high because of pumps, or is they that much of gravity feed? Because like over here, when I had the irrigation on the city, I can't believe it, but it was all gravity fed. It was an 8-inch main out here at the road, and it was all gravity fed. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But it was about 70 psi, 22 gallons a minute. And that's just wild to think that it's all gravity pressure. And luckily now with the well, I got 30 gallons a minute, and the pressure switch on it is on at 40 and off at 70.
Nice.
So it just fluctuates
It's
between
gravity benefits of the mountain. That is crazy.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Must be a lot of elevation change, because that's basically how they do it. The
Oh
water.
yeah, it's a good what, maybe 1,500 feet, maybe I don't know, maybe even like 2,000. Nah, it can't be 2,000. At least 1,000 to 1,500 feet from where the wells are that come down into the valley.
Yeah, it'll give you some pressure, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you?
You guys got some.
Go ahead.
You guys got some mountains there in Utah.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
that's one reason why I lived here. It's prettier than the Phoenix, Arizona skyscape and landscape for sure.
They get
cooler.
roaming packs of tumbleweeds too in Brian's
Oh,
town. They'll take
last
over your
night.
driveway too.
That's what I'm talking about. Last night that wind started coming through. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. There was a tumbleweed that came up right in front of my car and it was like up to my hood.
They're getting attacked.
It would have hit the hood of my car,
That's
man.
just wild, man. Oh, jeez.
I was like, here it is starting.
Forget coyotes. We got tumbleweeds coming. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Get out
yeah.
of here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get crazy here in a second.
I want to see some pictures, Brian. That's just wild. That blows my mind. Some of those pictures you showed us of just the piles of them. It's crazy.
It's like the what's that zombie movie Z Nation or something? With
Oh
Brad
yeah,
Pitt,
where they're climbing up
where the zombies
Israeli
pile
wall,
on top
yeah.
of each other. That's what
Yeah.
the tumbleweeds do, man.
Yeah.
They just start climbing over walls.
Man,
It's crazy
day
here.
after
But
tomorrow over here. Wild.
anyways,
All right,
this is a great
fellas.
show, Shane.
Yeah,
We
all right,
appreciate
great
you
show,
coming on.
Shane.
We
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on.
That's such an honor being on with y'all.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
It's
it's really interesting to learn and hear about how intuitive the system is.
I don't know why it's so echoey.
I don't know. Somebody's echoing.
Weird.
I was on mute.
Oh, Shane's muted now.
I think it might be you, Brett. Nope. Weird.
Oh.
Well, it's a great time to be in the show of this crazy echo. But we appreciate you
I feel
coming
like
on,
it's a
Shane.
canyon problem.
Yeah, somebody's driving through a canyon.
No, it's solved now.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
It's solved now.
Yeah.
But listen, next week we're talking soil testing, right? That's the plan. So we started talking about spring prep and pre-emergence and stuff a couple weeks ago. We're picking that back up and specifically talking about soil testing. So if you've been watching the show, you know where that's going. But either way, make sure you're on next week. We're going to be giving away some soil probes. Now the echo's back. We're giving away some soil probes from Landsea and a leveling rake from Landsea next week. So make sure you're in the live chat because that's on the ticket.
So much fun, guys. And
Yeah,
if
we
you got a
appreciate
yard
it.
out there you want to put in the Irrigreen website, just type your address in and play around with it. It's fun to see what it would look like doing it digital. So really,
Yeah.
appreciate
So
it.
Shane, where can
Irrigreen.com.
everybody find you guys? What's your website? What's your Instagram?
Yeah, if you go to
TikTok, whatever you got.
www.irrigreen.com. It'll pop up, and there's a little box you can put your address in there. There's also a little box if you want to schedule a meeting. We've got some lawn pros that'll kind of help you lay out the system for you. So if you want a little help for that, or just have any questions or anything else like that, they'll help you out with. But big thank you to all you, for the kind of pro lawn community and stuff like that as well. That's really helped us in terms of where we've come along. So thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh,
And
thank you.
thanks for having me on.
Stick around.
Thank
We'll
you.
go in the backstage and debrief a minute. But we will catch you guys all next week.
Yeah, you guys.
Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for tuning in, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you
great
for
night.
coming on.
See you next Tuesday.